Umpawashte Padamya Yahigwashte. Good morning to all my friends and relatives. Welcome to this special gathering. Trisha Hayward Imakiapiye. My name is Trisha Hayward and I am the Director of Intergovernmental Relations and the Implementation Department, for those of you who are not familiar with who I am. Today we would like to say thank you to Minister Miller, the Minister of Crown and Indigenous Relations of Canada, for coming to our community, and we are grateful for his presence here today. To listen to Sioux Valley Dakota Nation's concerns about our community in a special government-to-government relationship that we have with Canada as a self-governing sovereign nation. I'd like to start by introducing Minister Miller at our head table, along with Chief Jennifer Bone, Councillors Michelle Rosmus, Tim Whitecloud, Tony Tatchin, John Bell, and Rusty Taylor. Thank you for all your guidance and leadership that you have given us and our community. Before we get started this morning, I'm going to ask for Elder Oswald McKay to come up and start our day in a good way with a prayer, and then our drum group is going to do some songs as well.
Ha me take pe to khanake o taku kedana Dakota ya I picked the chidana donkota pero unka khanake de uchasta yata pe o yata ichiata hobo hechre woya kikta kape he anakuptum hippe unka I welcome him to unceded Dakota Territory, land of the great seven council fires. I welcome him here again. We met a month ago out in Saskatchewan. It's good to see him again here. We're going to say a prayer, ask Creator to be with us this morning. But before we do that, I'm going to ask the singers to sing the national anthem of the Oceti Sakowin, our national anthem. Our flag is here. And after that, then I'll start with a prayer, and I'll also ask him to sing a prayer song. Ask Creator to be with us today, to give us guidance, to listen, to watch over us, to see and hear what we have to say today. National anthem. Dakota. Oh, my coach, oh, yeah, oh, hey, sure. Oh, that's it, wait. Kahana Kenya, like that.
Jennifer Bone to come up for some opening remarks.
Hamitakiapi. Good morning, everyone. I just want to say thank you to Elder Oswald McKay for the opening prayer this morning, and to the drum group for being here and supporting us and starting us off in a good way. Thank you. I just want to welcome Minister Miller to Sioux Valley Dakota Nation and visiting our community here today along with his support staff. And thank you to our staff and to the council for being here this afternoon, and thank you for all of you for coming out here this morning. So I just want to start by providing a brief background on today's announcement and the purpose of Minister Miller's visit here to our community today. So back in 2019, Sioux Valley Dakota Nation leadership at that time identified water as a priority and the need for a new water treatment plant. And at that time, we utilized the Budget 2018 funds to conduct a water and wastewater assessment that was completed by Burns Mandel Consulting Engineers out of Brandon, Manitoba. The water treatment plant that currently exists was built in 1991, services 187 connections throughout the community via water mains and 110 buildings via truck haul. The assessment concluded that in order to bring the existing water treatment plant into regulatory and best practice compliance, including fire protection, approximately $2.7 million in 2019 would be required. For Sioux Valley Dakota Nation, the water treatment plant to supply water for the future projected population and expansion areas, significant upgrades would be required. The upgrades would be required prior to expanding the distribution system. Upgrades to the water treatment plant capacity would require approximately $4.2 million in upgrades. Upgrades to the distribution network to service the entire community of Sioux Valley Dakota Nation from the pipe water system would cost approximately $16.5 million. It was noted that in homes in the areas of the highest elevation on the system experience very low pressures that are potentially unsafe drinking water systems. The remainder of the community buildings received water from personal wells adjacent to the building. These wells are susceptible to contamination from various sources and should be evaluated further. As a result, Burns-Mandel generated a list of 30 recommended upgrades or action items that would be required to bring the existing water treatment and distribution system into compliance with regulations. Some of the required upgrades were completed, but as work commenced on these upgrades, engineers identified the fact that the upgrading the system was not feasible and that a more comprehensive replacement was required. With Budget 2021 funds, Sioux Valley Dakota Nation planned to proceed with building a new water treatment plant. The new water treatment plant will provide Sioux Valley Dakota Nation with necessary structural elements to begin to address their housing needs, and with that, the social and economic issues that result from lack of access to safe and adequate housing. Connecting more homes to the water line is preferred, and having water sitting in cisterns or holding tanks. Community members currently access water via 3 main methods: pipe connections from the water treatment plant, truck haul service, and individual private wells. The community plan is to eventually bring the majority of homes and businesses onto a piped water supply from the water treatment plant. A pipe network and a new water treatment plant would then provide an overall improvement to water accessibility and water quality for all residents. So this has been an ongoing project for a number of years, and I'm happy to announce that we're currently in step 5 of the new water treatment plant. The water treatment plant is set to go out to tender in 3 weeks, and construction of the new plant is to begin in August of 2023. Our initial construction estimate was almost $9 million. The opinion of probable cost in 2022 was over $10 million, not including the 20% contingency for market variability. The 2019 estimate of water distribution was $16.6 million. The overall construction schedule is anticipated to take about 12 to 16 months, and historically 12 months is a normal duration for a plant this size, but with labor shortages and supply chain issues, construction is taking longer these past few years. So on behalf of Sioux Valley Dakota Nation, we just want to share where we're at with the water treatment plant project. Like I said, we began this back in 2019, so we're really happy today to announce that we're going to be beginning construction in August of 2023. And I'll just pass it on to Minister Miller right now. Thank you.
I think it's still morning. Good morning, everyone. Really nice to be here on your land, on your oyate, to see for myself what the people I saw a couple weeks ago including Elder Oswald McKay, who spoke quite truthfully and honestly to me, gave me a piece. Those of you who know him, I suspect you know what I'm talking about, but gave me a piece of what he thought was where we stand as a relationship to Canada, where you stand in your relationship to Canada, and it really appreciated the open conversation we had, and it's nice to be here in your community, Chief Bone and Council, to see for myself, some of the good work that's going on, and have some really some continuing conversations from the conversations we had 3 or 4 weeks ago in Saskatchewan with some of your community members and elders, but also to talk about what Chief Bone was speaking to earlier, and the work that Canada needs to do to support you in the way you expect us to be, which is on a nation-to-nation, on a government-to-government relationship, in looking at your priorities and closing the socioeconomic gaps that exist and persist throughout Canada, but specifically in your community that affect your everyday lives. I've spent a good chunk of being a minister through a once-in-a-lifetime, let's hope, pandemic that had the real potential of affecting your communities and your people severely. My number one priority becoming a minister was something that we all take for granted, which is to stay alive and be safe, but it definitely focused the mind on how we need to behave and how those relationships that are often fueled with distrust can often create the outcomes that are very negative and that you often see in communities. But one thing we saw coming out of COVID is the importance to continue those investments in infrastructure, in very basic things that should be a human right, like water. And so working from that into getting into a federal budget sometimes is not easy, but it was critical because it shaped our mind as a government as to how we best accompany communities in and what they need. And what is clear in Sioux Valley, Dakota is the need for upgrades to your water systems, as well as other issues as well in terms of housing. But one of the number one priorities that was identified was making sure that you had the financial support to expand and really modernize a basic resource that you use every day, and that if the water is poisoned or contaminated, can really affect your health. And so this is an announcement that's been a long time coming, and so it comes on the heels of some very important discussions we had 3 or 4 weeks ago. But the stars are aligned for me to be in this community and to have the pleasure to confirm the funding of $12 million from the federal government to make sure that you had the financial support to affect the lives of a few thousand people in the community that'll be better served by a newer water system with state-of-the-art capacity to make sure that your water is safe. And so I'm told that this could even have the potential to expand to go up to 4,000 people. I think that's important to note, but I think it really represents a game changer in this community. We know that these investments are critical, and often in my relationships that I have with leadership and with community members, I often get the reminder that it's important for me to not come into a community and start talking about what my priorities are, but actually listen to what yours are and then take them back and act on them. Too often you have politicians coming into communities with their set framework of who you are and what we think you are, and the conversations get dominated by people who have these preconceived ideas of what our relationship looks like. And I've learned this sometimes the hard way. It's important to listen, but also important to act once I've gotten that feedback. So having conversations with Chief Bone today and council will be critically important for the next steps, but also reflecting on what I heard 4 weeks ago in Saskatchewan, in Whitecap, Dakota, where we spoke about the very recognition of your people as, and I guess the legal term is an Aboriginal people of Canada. And I think you know well, and I won't attempt in a poor way to re-educate about what your history is, because you know it better than I do. But for too long, your peoples have not been recognized for who they truly are on this land, which is an Aboriginal person of Canada, the legal term. And you don't need a government official to tell you that. I think you know who you are, and you know what this land represents to you. But the failure of the Government of Canada to recognize you truly as First Nations and First Peoples on this land has caused a lot of harm. It's caused others, including government officials, to treat you unfairly as refugees, to consider you, based on the false understanding of history, to be immigrants to this land. And that's something that's fundamentally wrong. And it's important for the Government of Canada to acknowledge that harm, and to take the next steps with you to truly acknowledge who you are. And I think, not to betray a conversation I had with Oswald, but I think you probably have a lot of questions as to what that might mean for the next steps, because you hear that coming out of my mouth, but you say, well, what does that mean? What is it going to cost you, right? Because of that lack of trust between the Government of Canada and the Lakota peoples. And the one thing I don't do when I meet people is to ask them implicitly to trust me, but to judge me and our government by the actions that we subsequently take. It is a very important moment, I believe, in your history to recognize you finally for who you truly are, so that from coming out of someone like me can be repeated to those people who still deny who you are, or to people who need to be educated as to who you are. So that has an importance in and of itself. But that recognition also comes with distinct legal rights that have been far too long denied from you. And those were conversations that this government is willing to take with you, as well as a historic apology for the harm that this failure to recognize who you are has caused to your peoples. And so I've undertaken with the Prime Minister to offer an apology in the House of Commons to the Lakota peoples. That is the 9 communities in Canada, so that we can make that public statement with the ceremony that it's due in a very important place for Canadians and for Canadian democracy. We're currently working on that and going back and forth on wording and the appropriate wording. I think the worst thing for me to do was would have come up with something to say and then say, this is what we're going to say, and you guys figure it out. But that comes with some back and forth, and so we're currently having some back and forth with Chief and Council and with the other communities to see what that apology looks like, but also to make sure it's done in a timely fashion. We're currently aiming towards June for that historic apology, and hope that we can make those timelines. But I've committed to pushing as hard as I can to get that done. So I'll leave it on those words. I do want to welcome you, or thank you for the welcome that you've given me here today. It's really nice for me personally to be in communities and to be speaking to you. I know we've already had a few conversations on the best hockey team in Canada, and the answer is in one of those drumsticks right there with the Habs sign on it. But I know you might be celebrating a victory of your own maybe in a month with perhaps Zach bringing home the cup. So hopefully, I have no team to cheer for anymore, so I guess I got to cheer for you guys. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. I really appreciate the welcome, and I hope to spend a nice portion of the day with you. Cho. Cho.
So before we go into lunch, and we also have a gift that we want to present to Minister Miller on behalf of the community. But before we go into that, we had one more announcement on behalf of the Chief and Council that we're excited to share with the community today. So a long-standing priority for Sioux Valley Dakota Nation has been the construction of a new school, and we've been in negotiations for a number of years, and on repeat with Canada on how we need a new school and how our high school is over 100 and some years old, and the quality of it, and all the problems that have come along with the operation and maintenance of those schools. The Chief and Council want to share today that we have officially started the monumental step to bring 2 brand new schools, doubling the size of our community's educational facilities, and that we will be working with the community over the next 9 to 12 months to finalize the designs of these schools. We understand that education is important and more than just academics. It is also about fostering a sense of identity, belonging, and pride in our culture and traditions. To achieve this, we are working with our community members and stakeholders to develop a design plan that reflects our values and our beliefs. So back in 2019, we engaged Stantec, who are here today. We had a meeting with them here this morning, our second meeting with them. Back in 2019 is when we started our feasibility study, and some of you may have recalled that we had a series of community meetings and meetings with our teaching staff, and just getting some feedback and setting some priorities moving forward. So that feasibility study was completed in 2021 and was submitted to the department back then. So moving forward to today, 2023, we moved into the design phase. We believe that incorporating the Dakota culture into the schools will foster a sense of identity, pride, and belonging amongst our students. The new schools will feature Dakota-inspired architectural elements, artwork and decor, traditional teachings, language, and practices that will be integrated into the curriculum. Our commitment to incorporating Dakota culture and practices into the design and curriculum of the new schools reflects our belief in the importance of preserving and promoting our rich cultural heritage. We look forward to working with the community to create an inclusive and responsive learning environment that celebrates our unique identity. And we also look forward to continuing to work with Stantec, with the community. I know the design phase is approximately 12 months, so I know there'll be a series of community consultations and engagements, and I encourage you all to participate in those engagements. We want to ensure that the new schools fully reflect our values and our visions for the future. And I want to thank you all for being here today, and thank you for your support. And I just want to conclude our presentations by presenting Minister Miller with a gift. So I'm going to take it out for you so I can explain this. So we have this gift here, a beaded medallion, which was made by one of our community members, Jamie Waters. I asked her to design a gift that was based, that represented our community, and she included the river there, the Assiniboine River or the Oak River where we live, the Saskatoon bush, sage, sweetgrass by the river, red and blue healing flowers representing the medicines that were plentiful around our home, and the day and night hills on the north and south side of the 21, and of course the white buffalo that represents Sioux Valley. Yeah.
Show.
And we also have another gift for him as well that was made by community member Tracy Taylor.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness.
Perfect.
Very nice.
Looks good. Awesome.
That's great. Thank you.
Well, that concludes the formal part of the morning. We're just going to wait for a few minutes. The lodge has made us lunch, but they had a little incident with their cook and she broke her wrist, so they're just kind of running around. They're just finishing up some potatoes and they'll be right over, and then everyone is welcome to stay and have some lunch. There's tea and coffee ready. There'll be some drinks set out. We're going to have traditional buffalo roast, potatoes, vegetables, berries, bannock. So make sure you stay, and as soon as they're ready, I will give some instruction. Thank you.